What is going on, everybody? It is Luke Beller with the Sideline Scoop, and today we're going to be talking about the Packers and Lions game coming up on Sunday. We got the Lions at 5-7, not a winning record, and we got the Packers sitting at 9-3 at the top of the NFC North. So we got this NFC North battle coming up on Sunday. I think it's at like 3 or 4, something like that. So I want to take a look at this game and sort of give my thoughts on the game, give my prediction on the game. But if you guys are new to this channel, you've not seen a video here before, just letting you know I post Packers content pretty much every single day. So if you're into that kind of thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. So what I want to sort of cover first in this video is sort of looking at this Lions defense. So right now, this Lions defense is ranked 31st in the NFL, averaging 29.8 points per game. That's how many points they're allowing per game. And I think one of the reasons is because of their cornerback play. So right now they are missing, I guess you would say their number one cornerback, Desmond Trufant. He's on the IR. And then also Jeff Okudah, their their first pick, number 3 overall of this 2020 draft, also is unlikely to play coming up on Sunday. But honestly, I wish Jeff Okudah was going to play, because if you take a look at some of his stats, he has not played good this year at all. If you take a look at PFF, Pro Football Focus, their player ranking, he is currently ranked 116th out of 125 cornerbacks. So honestly, I wish he was playing. I wish he was faced up against Davante Adams, because I don't think he would fare very well against Davante Adams. So there's that guy. He's not likely to play. He could play. So far this season, Okudah's been targeted 50 times. He's allowed 38 receptions for 579 yards. So not a very good season for him. So who knows if he will play or not. And then if we take a look at their other 3 cornerbacks, they got Amani or something. I can't say his last name. Pretty hard to pronounce. He is ranked 72nd out of 125. We got Justin Coleman. He is ranked 83rd out of 125. And another cornerback I saw from them, Darryl Roberts, is ranked 103rd out of 125. So you take away those 2 corners, the first 2 corners, who likely won't be playing. Well, we got Trufant obviously not playing on the IR. He's ranked 120th out of 125, so not good for him either. But these other 3 running backs who will likely be playing, no one's ranked above 70th when you sort of take a look at their PFF ranking. So obviously that fares very well for a Packers offense that is scoring the most points in the NFL. You got Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams having a great season so far. He has 84 receptions, 1,029 yards, and 13 touchdowns. So honestly, I have no idea how they're going to attempt to stop this Packers offense, because Aaron Rodgers has been rolling, probably having, one of the best seasons of his career. So it's definitely going to be tough for them to stop them, especially with their issues at cornerback and the fact that they're giving up 29.8 points per game. And even if we take a look at this Lions defense, how they fared last week in their win versus the Chicago Bears, they pulled off the win, winning that game 34-30. But if we take a look at Mitch Trubisky's stats, he went 26 for 34, 267 yards, 1 touchdown with a 108.3 rating. So as you can see there, those are some pretty good stats from a guy named Mitch Trubisky. So can you imagine what a guy named Aaron Rodgers will do to them? I honestly think Aaron Rodgers is going to pick up some stats on Sunday versus this Lions team. But if you don't remember, the Packers did play the Lions back in week 2. In that game, Rodgers went 18 for 30, had 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. So a pretty good game from him, not like crazy stats. But the reason for that is the Packers rushing attack was just lights out in that first game versus the Lions. In that game, Aaron Jones had 18 carries for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he also in that game had a 75-yard run. And so obviously in that game versus the Lions, the Packers could run the ball basically at will and pass the ball at will. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how the game plays out this Sunday, because with them having cornerback issues, their cornerbacks are injured, their cornerbacks aren't playing good. You would assume the Packers are going to be able to pass the ball a lot against this team, but also they will also be able to run the ball, considering Aaron Jones, one of the best running backs in the NFL, and he sort of showed just how good he can be against this Lions team back in week 2. So honestly, I think this Packers offense overall is just going to dominate this game coming up on Sunday versus the Lions. So one thing that we do sort of need to take into account for this game is recently, the Lions let Matt Patricia go, and right now interim head coach Darrell Bevell is coaching, and right now they are 1-0 with him after beating that Bears team. So who knows, this Lions team could be fired up, could sort of feel like there's some new life in this team. So you can never, sort of be too confident coming up against a Lions team. We are playing over there in Detroit, and at times the Packers have had, trouble there, and it is a division game, so you never know what could happen. So even though it seems like this Packers offense should really dominate this Lions defense, you never know what could happen. So next, we sort of take a look at the Lions, led, of course, by Matthew Stafford, definitely a gunslinger. But so far this year, they're 19th best when it comes to scoring. Not great, 23.8 points per game. But one interesting thing to take a look at is sort of the way the offense played last week with their first, game under interim coach Bevel. So in that game, Matthew Stafford had his second most air yards per attempt all time. It was the most for him this season. And to sort of take a look at his deep throws, he had 16 throws over 10 yards. He went 27 for 42, threw for 402 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. And as I was reading about that game, they were sort of talking about how the coach said that he just sort of wanted to let Matthew Stafford go out there and just let him play. And maybe, with Matt Patricia, maybe he was a little bit, a little bit harder on him. I don't know, maybe sort of dictating more what he could do, where Bevel's coming in and sort of allowing him to sort of have the freedom to sort of do what he wants more. And as you can see from that game, Matthew Stafford had an amazing game. So it's definitely important for the Packers to keep Matthew Stafford in check. One thing to consider, Kenny Golladay, obviously the Lions' best receiver, has missed so many games this season. He's only played in 5 games this season. And I went and found this interesting stat. So if you sort of take a look right here, in the games that Kenny Golladay has played, they are averaging 26.6 points per game when he has played. I'm pretty sure they're 3-1 in that time as well. And when he has not played, they're only averaging 21.86 points per game. So about 5 points less per game when Kenny Golladay is not in the lineup. And it's likely that he won't be playing this week, so it's likely that Marvin Jones will be the number 1 option at wide receiver. If we take a look at Marvin Jones, last week he had 8 receptions for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. So definitely a great wide receiver. Definitely, I don't think he's as good as Kenny Golladay, because Kenny Golladay is definitely a great player. Unfortunately, I picked him in fantasy, so he's just been sitting on my bench most of the year. I really would like him to come back soon, so he can help me out in the playoffs, but who knows if that's going to happen. But it will be interesting to see if Marvin Jones will be able to, get open, because he'll probably be facing Jaire Alexander, who is probably one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So it's very likely that he could just be shut out in this game. You never know, because Jaire Alexander has faced lots of great receivers and really shut them down. So I assume that he could do the same to Marvin Jones. So then one player on this team who's played really, really good this year, tight end TJ Hockenson, has had a great season so far. So if you take a look at his stats, he has 50+ yards in 8 of 12 games this season, so very consistent guy. Last time versus the Packers, he had 4 targets for 62 yards. One interesting thing that I didn't really realize is apparently the Packers don't really allow as many tight end targets as compared to any other NFL teams. They are the 4th fewest in the NFL when it comes to tight end targets. They've only seen 68 tight end targets this year. So TJ Hockenson was, one of the leading receivers last time versus the Packers, even though he only had 4 targets. So it'll be interesting to see sort of if the Lions, sort of force the ball to him, if Jaire Alexander is on Marvin Jones. So we definitely need to watch out for TJ Hockenson, because he is definitely a great player. And then if we take a look at their running game, right now, the player on their team with the most attempts is Adrian Peterson. Crazy that he's still around. So far this year, he has 135 attempts, 501 yards, 6 touchdowns. He is only averaging 3.7 yards per attempt, so probably not the same skill caliber as he, once used to have. Then, of course, they have DeAndre Swift, who's played pretty good this season, but he has been injured since week 10. I think he had a concussion, and now he's dealing with some headaches or something like that. So he may play on Sunday, but we're not really sure up to this point. So far this season, Swift has 70 attempts, 331 yards, averaging 4.7 yards per attempt, so about a yard more per attempt than Adrian Peterson. But one thing to take into consideration is I remember back in the day when Adrian Peterson used to play the Packers when he was on the Vikings, and there were some games in there where he just ran right over the Packers, which he probably did to most teams in the NFL. So considering the Packers don't have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, we got to watch out for Adrian Peterson. Some stats about the Packers' run defense: we're actually 14th in the NFL, so top half when it comes to rush yards per game, 114.6 yards per game allowed. But when you take a look at rush yards per attempt, we are 25th in the NFL, averaging 4.6 yards per attempt, or per rush. So the final thing I want to talk about in this video is going to be the Lions offensive line. So right now they're 20th in the NFL when you take a look at, how many sacks they allow per game. They're allowing 2.8 sacks per game. So not a great line in the bottom third of the NFL. And so coming after last week with the Packers, putting up 7 sacks against that, pretty bad Eagles offensive line, I think the Packers will be able to get to Matthew Stafford this week. And if we can, force a couple turnovers, I think this should be, a great game from this Packers team overall. Of course, we got Zadarius Smith right now. He is 3rd in the NFL with sacks. He has 10.5 sacks. And then last week, one guy who sort of came out, played really well, was Kingsley Keke. He had 2 sacks last game. So right now, Keke is actually tied for 2nd on the Packers with sacks, tied with Rashawn Gary with 4 sacks. So it's good to see Keke coming alive in his 2nd season. Last year, he only played in 9% of snaps. This year, he's played in 43% of snaps. So it's definitely great to see him, taking this next leap. And I really expect him, in his third year next season to really take another step forward. So definitely good to see Kingsley Keke there. So hopefully the Packers can get pressure on Matthew Stafford, for some turnovers, which I honestly think will happen in this game. So my score prediction for this game is going to be Packers 38, Lions 27. As we've seen from this Packers defense, the reason I think the Lions will put up 27 points is lots of times we'll be up by like 20 or 30 points. And then in the fourth quarter, in sort of garbage time when the game's pretty much decided, the defense seems to play a lot more soft. We let that Jalen Hurts, 4th and 18, I think it was. He threw that touchdown pass on 4th down later in the game. So hopefully, we can play hard the entire game and not sort of, let up near the end of the game. But I do think the Lions will put up, a good amount of points considering they do have Matthew Stafford who can really sling the ball around. But I'd be curious to hear your guys' score predictions, so drop that down in the comments below. But that's going to be all for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you smash the like button down below. Really helps push the video out to more people on that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see some more Packers content in the future, make sure you subscribe and turn on the post notifications so that way, you get a notification when I post a video. But that's going to be all for today. See you guys on the next video.